All right, cool. Yeah, so today, a little more casual. We're gonna build the wedges for the raffle giveaway. Not as in depth, but I will be, unlike last time, kind of talking you through why or what I'm doing a little bit as we go. Not a lot, but let's get started. We got 3 to build. I'm going to first make sure these CPMs blend properly. Not really necessary. ACCRA makes a very good shaft as far as tolerances go. They usually match up, and we've got 3 wedge shafts, so there won't be really any tipping, hopefully. The real reason why I'm doing this with the wedge package is if we were to, especially with lower grade shafts, if I was to get anything that was really lower CPM or really higher CPM, I might try to make some adjustments or toss a shaft. In a set blend, we want the lower CPM stuff to always be in our longer irons because it just means it's going to get up a little easier. So that's what we're checking. And usually there's a set CPM drop as we go down from 4, 5, 6, 7.
You're all set. Yes, sir.
So
There you go. Here you go.
these are firm. All right, next up, we're gonna rough these up. Like I said, didn't have to measure, tip anything. 355s here. This is the TZ wedge shaft 130. We're just gonna get them so that they fit up in these heads we got. Bettinardi.
Cut. I think we said 37 after the cut.
That's just to make sure, I mean, even though these are brand new wedges, it has rust, has some sort of debris, stuff like that. 2 parts traction for the epoxy. That brush itself will scar up that metal a little bit, make it not as smooth. Plus, old or new head, if we have some junk in there, as I'm roughing, trying to get a perfect fitment for the shaft. If I didn't clear out the junk and then I clear it later, then all of a sudden shaft's skinnier than I want. We can have some lean, which makes them not sit right, which could throw off like the actual lie angle. It could make epoxy leak and make the ferrule not sit properly. So just good to do it. Sometimes you got junk in the bottom of it, you don't think about it, and then you clean it out and you've already butt trimmed it and you lose an 1/18 of an inch or something like that, which is not ideal. If you want to know, when you're trying to just get small stuff, you slightly twist it, you'll see like a little mark where, oh, that's just the portion I got to do. I don't have to go all the way over because you don't want to, you want to make sure you get an even taper on these things. All right, done roughing up the tips. We'll see the fitment on the ferrules. When we go to build, we might rough up a little further if they're too snug to get over that paint. But that's something I'll see as I start putting them together. Next step, we're gonna get them cut to length. Our guy wants them half over standard. To force myself to not get too quick, I still take the time after all these years. I like to write everything out. Just as like just a mental checklist that I can write down to make sure I don't get ahead of myself. And because we're doing play length, we're just measuring out a 1/4 of an inch below our number, because the grip is going to add to it, and that would be our play length. Sure this thing didn't change on the day off. It's important. You guys at home using these, make sure you re-zero them every day. This can twist, give you improper numbers, but we're good and healthy. One thing we'll do real quick, because I got this this comment. Why don't I just have standard cut grips to use away versus going specific? We're gonna see. Okay, we got an Iomic here weighing in at 50.5 grams. MCC +4, weighing in at a healthy 69 grams. That's why I like to build with the specific grip, whatever is actually going on the club we're gonna use. We got a nice start point. I mean, most wedges in a classic D2 blend, which is what you're going to see in steel on the floor, you're going to want to go into like a D3, D4. These have a drop weight cavity. It makes them even easier to get heavy, but we're starting out at a D3 here with our gap wedge. We like that. Let's turn this way. Stuff you find that comes in your shop. That's an extension in graphite that's over an inch long. That's dangerous. You're making something that's going to break inside someone's hand. Sorry, sir. Sorry.
Cut.
Filming.
Cut.
That's what I deal with on a daily basis. He's got his own tools. Wants to use mine.
Someone unplugged my tools.
Trying to be productive. Well, someone took the Saturday off. I had the whole weekend off. I had to move some stuff around. Okay, as we know, we saw earlier, without taping the ferrule on, we had a D3. We taped the ferrule on. Especially with the larger BB&F Co ferrules. Shout out BB&F Co. Great ferrules. Like using them. Yeah, we added a full swing point. So now we're at D4. We're going to put at least, minimal, amount of epoxy in there. Get it to stick. So we're probably saying out the gate, these are going to go to D5 pretty easily without any sort of weight adjustment by me. Alright, and this is why we go through all of them, of course. We're going to have some varying tolerances in the heads due to the grinds and taking off metal, or just sometimes, there's different sets. You can get lightweight heads, heavyweight heads. So we've got a little bit of variation as far as what we don't want going lighter as we're getting into our lower wedge. We want to see heavier, not lighter, or we'll keep it static. But it's only a point, so we can make that up pretty easy in the build process. Just as a man of many, many ideas, everybody, your tape idea was brilliant. The twisting of the tape, I'll say that. And he's found out if you have a million ideas, eventually one is going to be a decent one. Yeah, so he's good for about one a month. Just know that I'm not talking to myself. Justice is talking to me. For what you can hear. These wedges have drop weight cavities. Alright, little lead weight. Wash your hands, don't lick your fingers after using these. And then there's a small, the end of that hosel is right here, and it has an inner cavity that we can drop down. It'll line up flush, add weight, not gonna mess with our length cut. Let me go back at it. This should get us most of the way there. You have limits to how deep those cavities are, so you can only drop so long of a weight down there. It's 2 grams a point. We put 6 grams in there. That's what we needed. Boom, and it switched it to D3. So now we just got some minimal work to do in the build. Maybe sprinkle some magic dust in the epoxy. Alright, gonna make up some epoxy. I know you've noticed already before you say anything. This is what happens when you send your general manager to go get you Dixie cups. Finds a great deal, but he finds a huge Dixie cup. So we adjust. Love you, Steve. Slipping on the ferrule. We didn't have to do any extra roughing. It slid right on. Usually with the 355s, BB&F Co stuff goes on pretty easily. 370s, sometimes you have to do some extra roughing. Spine mark. That's one good thing. ACCRA and a lot of the other companies are actually, and I've kind of tested it. I've re-spined behind them, but they give you on these shafts the puring mark, if you will, that some people talk about, or the spine mark, so that you don't have to worry about doing it yourself if you trust them. I've done several hundred of these and they haven't been wrong yet. So 1 down, 2 more. There's been lead powder. There's all sorts of stuff people use. This tungsten's heavier, it's more expensive, but you don't have to use much. Doesn't affect the integrity of the epoxy. What you don't want, you want to make sure you put enough in it to where you don't have a lot of stuff creeping up the shaft on purpose. There's some builds I pulled apart from other guys where I've got a rod of tungsten epoxy shoved halfway up the shaft. By doing so, they got a weight on the scale they're looking for, but all that expensive fancy technology you're looking for, the reason why you pay more for certain shafts, a lot of it's down here. Plus you have the actual profiling of the shaft. If you put effectively a steel rod down the middle of it of epoxy mixed with tungsten that goes all the way up to here, you've eliminated the feel of the shaft you paid for. It's one of my soapboxes.
All right. Just spoke with Kyle. He says they have not come in yet, but they're.
There we go. Definitely gives you a little bit different of a sound when it's finally seated. Tells you you're good. See what we got to weight was. There we go. Whether it's skill or luck, we got right on the number first try that we were looking for. The reason why we're going to pre-seat before we put our drop weight in is because the drop weight, as soon as you turn, obviously the head like this, to either tap in the shaft, or like I'm not, when I'm going like this, I'm actually pulling up with this hand and pushing. I'm not like putting my full weight on that shaft. Just the weight will keep dropping, and if it doesn't go right back into that cavity, it's pushing into that shaft you're trying to tap, so you're either going to hurt something or you're not going to go anywhere. Definitely make sure you get all your fingerprints and stuff off the club before you put it on the wall. I found that customers don't like your fingerprints forever glued to their club heads. Alright, now we wait for them to cure. Alright, welcome back. Day 2. We let the wedges like naturally cure on the rack here overnight versus throwing them in the curing cell. All that's left is to turn these ferrules and get the grips on. You might notice a change to the shop. We did some rearranging while these were curing. Ferrules, when you just originally put them on, they always have some overhang. You know, you got thumb catchers. They don't look finished. They don't match the hosel design. There's different widths of hosels. So you just want to make sure you get that natural taper. What we're not going to do, and you'll see with some people early on as they're turning ferrules, we're not going to leave that belt right here because it'll square off and then start its taper. You're going to see, I'm going to let it travel with these fingers up here so I can do the taper, the full blend, so I still get that natural angle of the ferrule itself. That's why I put tape down here on some graphite, because I run the belt and I don't, every once in a while you can burn it over, and tape don't care versus hurting the logo on the composite shaft. And now we're just going to the acetone. Just eats away a bit of the ferrule, makes it smooth, gets it shiny again after using that felt belt. You ready? All right, final step in our wedge build. We're just going to throw the grips on. This client asked for an additional 3 wraps. We've got a standard size Iomic here. We're going to get it to mid. One of the reasons some players prefer this is versus going to a mid where you got a lot of squishy rubber in your hands, especially with a grip that's designed to kind of be an anti-torque grip. You stretch it so it stays firm or gets firmer, but gives you the grip size that you want. It's always good. Be careful when you're building up tape. You don't want to ride the same line every time, so you'll get a ridge. You know, ping, and some guys still wrap their tape, which does the same thing, so you can't get like a ridge in it. I just rotate my start points of where I start my tape so I don't get any overlap in one spot. What was that? Dude, I'm always thinking about eating. Alright. 5 hours later. You gotta be real careful, because if you get a wrinkle in there, it just blows it all up, and you don't want to get 3 wraps in and get a wrinkle and have to start over.